Hello, and welcome to the Breakthrough Work Podcast. I'm your host, Ravi Kumar, partner and national market leader at Connor Group. Breakthrough Work lets leaders and companies who shatter the status quo tell their stories about getting to the other side. My guest today is Dharti Patel, Chief Accounting Officer at Flock Safety. Dharti has built an exceptional career across some of the most recognizable high-growth companies in Silicon Valley, including spending over a decade at SurveyMonkey, leadership roles at Alto Pharmacy, Moloko, and Yahoo. And she is now helping scale one of the fastest growing public safety technology companies in the country at Flock Safety. Dharti, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Ravi. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for including me in your amazing podcast.
Oh, well, we're super appreciative to have you on the show. Excited for you to tell your story, your career story, as well as Flock's story on the podcast. So we'll jump in and kind of going back to where things started on the earlier end of your career. You spent more than a decade at SurveyMonkey, something that's pretty much unheard of in Silicon Valley. But what anchored you there for so long, and what lessons that built the foundation for your career at SurveyMonkey still stay with you today?
It's a little unheard of. I spent 8 years at SurveyMonkey, 12 years at Yahoo. So those were probably the two experiences where I really cut my teeth. But I think what I really loved about SurveyMonkey was it had this culture that encouraged innovation and collaboration. So it was where I really learned what it meant to create something from scratch. And that went from designing systems to shaping teams. And I even got to experience kind of the challenges and rewards of what building a foundation that is not only durable, but could support rapid growth would look like. So I think from that experience, some of the things that I've carried with me are really like the importance of being adaptable and agile, being able to listen to diverse perspectives, and then fostering a supportive environment for a team so that all of the team members can thrive. And it's definitely been something that I continue to carry with me.
No, that's amazing. And I forgot that you spent a longer time at Yahoo. Connor Group and I did the Hortonworks IPO. So it was a lot of former Yahoo folks back in 2014. So yeah, I dated myself as well. I spent, now over 11 years at Connor Group, which is a little crazy. But when you think back to, those periods early on in your career, what were some of those experiences that, started to guide you in terms of what leader you wanted to become?
I would say something that really stuck with me was being okay, being uncomfortable. I think I realized that growth often comes from being willing to try something even before maybe you feel fully ready. Saying yes to maybe unfamiliar roles or projects. Through that, I was able to actually discover strengths I didn't know that I actually had, and passions for things that I previously had never worked on. And then the other thing is I just was lucky enough to have some really strong mentors that made a huge difference in building my own confidence and also giving me lots of perspective. I was able to see how they think and communicate, make decisions. And so it taught me not just actual skills, but it taught me a lot about judgment. And I feel like I got to learn how to operate at the next level before I actually was ever there. So that's probably for me been the biggest, most pivotal kind of experiences.
Yeah, and kind of a follow-on on that, when I work with my colleagues at the firm, as well as when I talk to a number of finance executives and other executives, did you seek out these mentors within the organization, or was it more of kind of a gravitational pull of you saw leadership styles that you could resonate with, and it was just kind of a natural pull there?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think I was lucky enough to have folks that were willing to kind of take me under their wing and show me the way. And then there were others where I was actually inspired by them and motivated to create connections. So I think it was a combo. But I would say earlier in my career, it was more people taking me under their wing. And I think once I built more confidence, I think then when I saw that my values aligned with others, that's when maybe I had more of the motivation to have the outreach myself and try and build the connection.
Got it. And then that transition from you going from mentee to mentor and taking on your own, leadership voice. When did you feel that shift happen?
Probably not like just a single moment. I think it was a progression. I think earlier in my career, I was mostly focused on proving that I could do the work. And then over time, when I was put in certain situations where I had to influence others, I think that's when I realized like that my voice actually mattered. So I learned a lot through the mentorship, like seeing how the leaders that I respected modeled clarity, empathy, decision making, and that helped me develop my own style. But then for me, it's like about being thoughtful, prepared, and then most important, I think, is like willing to speak up when it matters. So yeah, it's probably been gradual, and I feel like I continue to learn and evolve as I'm around new and different people all the time.
Yeah, I think there isn't enough credit placed on, you talked about thriving in, being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I think it's a healthy balance between the imposter syndrome of doing something that you've never done before and, actually using the skill set and the toolkit that you have to, thrive in unfamiliar circumstances. So, I think that's a sign of how you've been able to progress throughout your career and find great leadership roles at great companies, which is actually a great segue into my next question, which is you made some bold transitions, not just notable companies, but also across industries, consumer internet, healthcare, ad tech, enterprise platforms, and now public safety tech. What's guided a bit of your decision making to make some of these bold moves across different sectors?
I For me, it's kind of focused on like three main areas. I think I usually think about, am I going to learn something new? And then it's what kind of impact am I going to have in the role that I'm taking or the company that I'm moving over to? And then will I respect the people that I'm going to be working with? If the answer was yes, it was pretty easy to take on the discomfort that came with
Yeah.
change because it's something that I felt like I'm going to enjoy because I'm expanding my perspective or I'm challenging myself. And then just being able to have impact and contribute at a higher level. So I don't think I ever optimized for comfort. Maybe one day I'll get there, but not yet. So far, it's all been about learning and growing and being around people that I look up to and admire.
Yeah, I won't give it fully away. One of my previous guests on the podcast said that after some of the craziest IPOs and transactions that he's worked on, he was going to work for a safe company. But then he and I both realized that that's not truly in his DNA. Even though a company was operating smoothly, growing incredibly well, he's like, yeah, this is kind of boring.
Yep. Right now, I
But
seem to love chaos, so it's working for me.
Well, you touched on this briefly of the alignment between purpose and mission. So, talking about flock safety briefly, your why at Flock is deeply personal. The company's helped find over 1,000 missing people, which is a staggering impact. When did the emotional weight of that mission hit you?
I mean, I think it's like hearing about the real examples of how our technology is helping locate missing people and solving crimes. We do a weekly all hands, and they talk about all these solved cases. And for me, as a parent, I think that just landed very differently. I felt like the mission felt very personal for me. It's like I have kids, and I was thinking like in the worst case situation, if something were to happen, I would want every possible tool, technology out there
Yeah.
working to bring them home. And so it's really inspiring. It's very humbling to like be part of a company that's doing great things for the community. And it really works. And so it's pretty exciting. I'm actually like, I don't know, I get excited about it every day, like working there. It's just feels good.
Yeah, it was one of the other guests on the podcast talking about how to just really go beyond the world of finance, right? Understanding what the business does, understanding, truly what drives the organization and drives individuals in other sectors, and putting yourself in other shoes. I think it was Shannon Nash when she spent some time at Wing and other top tech companies. Just really putting on different hats and then understanding, okay, here's how my role plays into the bigger picture. And so I remember going back to my early Big Four audit days. Even though you're auditing cash or AR or something super boring, how does that fit into the bigger picture? But at Flock, even the finance organization, as important as we think finance is to everything, it really is that broader mission and impact that is truly incredible. So you guys are doing amazing work over there.
Thank you.
Working for a mission-driven company, I know that is both inspiring, but then also creates a bit of that intense pressure because you want to do more. How has that purpose shaped your, leadership style and resilience at the company?
I think seeing firsthand how our mission does affect people, I think I tend to focus more on urgency, and then I feel like more thoughtful decision making, and really like building trust because the stakes are real for the people our work touches. So I think those are probably like highest priority focus areas for me.
Yeah, it kind of goes in the way of my line that I've been using for 20 plus years, which is accounting isn't life or death. When this actually, has such a profound impact, yeah, maybe I couldn't use that at Flock because yeah, there is that sense of urgency, for sure. Um, at this stage in your career, I think it's a privilege to be selective about the companies that you choose to join. How, I guess, liberating is it to choose your roles not just based on responsibility, but on purpose that aligns with your actual values?
Incredibly liberating, and energizing too. Like I think when your values are clear, decision making gets easier. I generally feel more grounded. So I feel very fortunate to now be in a position where I'm choosing the work that aligns with who I am and what matters to me. So um, yeah, I think even just along the way, I feel like I've been very fortunate to just work at great companies. But the the values and what's important to me as I've kind of matured in my career and having family and other things have like definitely directed me in what's next. I mean, when I went to Alto, that too was very purpose. Like the mission had meaning there as well, like making healthcare more affordable. So it's nice to be part of something that's bigger than just making money.
Absolutely. But when both are possible, then it's a
Then it's
win-win
a great,
situation, right?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, we one of the last times we met in person, we talked about our parenting philosophy. I'll put it that way. Me as a father of four, it definitely resonated with me. And we talked about parenting philosophies, the influence on leadership. I'm paraphrasing, but I think we said something along the lines of, do your bleeping job. Um, how has being a parent made you a stronger executive? And vice versa, how has being an executive made you a stronger parent?
I would say parenting humbles you probably in the best way. And it's definitely strengthened my resilience and also like my empathy. And so I think I've become a lot more aware that people respond very differently to the same approach. I've got two children that are very different from one another. And it's also made me very intentional about like priorities so that I can be both fully present at home and at work. But I think being a parent has allowed me to equally be more patient at work and to maybe like understand that people like work is not everything. And so that's where the prioritization and the focus and really like trying to make everybody's work more meaningful and trying to make it more efficient. Like the working hard is great, but there's got to be balance too. So
Yeah, I've gone on record several times saying that, the working mom is someone who I respect, with utmost respect and admiration, just because not only does it tend to, in most households, the household responsibilities still fall on mom. Something goes wrong at school, kids typically call mom. So to balance that with the workload that you have in these senior leadership positions is truly remarkable. So I commend you on that, and I also give you a +1 on the parenting being the most humbling thing that I've ever done as well. It's definitely new challenges every day. Same philosophy doesn't work with each kid, and
no.
I think they are there to truly test us and reward us on the grandest scale.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't see the impact until years and years later. So it's a lot
Oh,
of
thanks.
patience.
Yeah,
You got a ways to go, Remy.
yes, I'm yes, waiting for the fruits of my labor. Let's say that. And so I have this conversation with folks that you know grew up differently than our kids have grown up, right? My kids have far more opportunities than I had as a kid. What do you hope your children absorb when they watch how you've navigated your career, your decision making, and what lessons do you want them to pick up from watching mom kick butt in her career?
I think first and foremost is like work hard. It matters. Like do what you say you're going to do. It matters. So I also hope that they see how important it is to choose work that aligns with your values and maybe have the courage to go pursue things that matter to them. Um, the other thing is like you don't really have to have everything figured out, and it's okay to try new things and learn as you go. But how you show up matters just as much as what you achieve. So yeah, I think the things that I drill in at home, which I hope they carry with them, is to just to work hard, have character, be somebody you can trust and be relied on. So
Is work-life balance real?
yes, it is. If you have, I think it is. Um, if you have, if you're set up for success, I think I've been super lucky. The places I've gone, I feel like we've been able to have the resources, the systems, the technology, bringing in outside advisors when needed, and that's allowed me to do the things that and be successful in my roles. And so, I think it's possible, but I think the culture and the company there has to be that right awareness of like where the company really is and where it needs to go and how realistic it is to get there and what the resources look like to get there. And so I've just been super lucky. I know not everyone has that same luck and maybe they don't have the luxury, but so for me, I do think, but it's different. I think early in my career, is way different than how I approach it now. But now as a leader, I get to influence how the team operates and what should matter. And so for me, I think family is number one. I've always said, like, you could be juggling a bunch of these glass balls and work will continue, companies will continue. But if the glass ball that breaks is family, like
Yeah.
that's going to be a bigger impact. So you got to kind of take care of all of it.
Yeah, I put that in a protective cocoon along with health, so that there's additional layers of insulation in case one of them takes a hit. But yeah, I think it was early on in my time at KPMG, we had a office managing partner that took over for the previous office managing partner, and he came in and he said, you know. Everyone joined this firm, to build their career, not for work-life balance. And I think a lot of them gave him the look that my dog used to give me, where he was like, "What, really?" And I understand, work life balance, and I found that like throughout my career, I feel like I'm always in a perpetual state of imbalance. Either there are times when work has to be, the key focus of my attention, but then, the pendulum swings all the
Yeah.
way to the other side where like I have to be there for family and kids and everything else. And so it is tough, especially in the, world that we live in now when fire drills happen out of the blue, ransomware, cyber attacks, and other things where it's almost an all hands on deck exercise at certain times. But yeah, family and health, definitely, top focus. Otherwise,
Yeah.
everything else doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah. And I do think, like you said, with the pendulum swinging, I think, when if you've got people that are aligned and have similar values and same kind of how they approach work, and they'll prioritize the right things at the right time. I
Yeah.
feel like I generally don't need to like manage in a way where I have to tell people what to do. Everybody takes pride in their work and they want to actually be responsible and responsive and all those things. So yeah.
Oh, 100%. And there are times where, I'm needed to have someone else's back on the team because they have something going on. Other times I've needed folks to have my back, but building those bonds, having those people that you can rely on and that can rely on you
Yep.
truly just make the experience that much better. And that's how you create that cohesive team, right?
Yep.
Um, so across SurveyMonkey, Alto, Moloko, Yahoo, and now Flock, you talked about chaos earlier. What's been your toughest scaling challenge that you've faced in the chief accounting officer seat?
Probably trying to build structure fast enough to support the growth without slowing the business down. And then just constantly trying to balance that speed with rigor. Like you're trying to put controls in place and processes and systems, but then you still need to be flexible and agile. So I think that's probably been my toughest challenge. But now I feel like I've done it a few times, so it gets easier. It feels easier. It's not as it doesn't like keep me up at night anymore. It's like
Yeah.
you have a playbook and you kind of just execute now. So
And with that playbook, when you're starting at a new organization, what it's I'm almost imagining like an ER, an ER triage, where you're deciding, okay, day one, this is all the things that I need to do. What is your triage framework? Where do you start? Day one, and let's call it your 90, 180-day plan.
yeah, I mean, the starting place is really just like understanding the business objectives, and then like kind of what the key outcomes that leadership cares about. So having that kind of as the backdrop, but then starting to like assess like where the biggest gaps are, where the risks are, where the opportunities are. And I mean, I'm sure it's a common theme, but it is focused around like process, systems, and talent. And so then being able to kind of focus on the initiatives that are going to drive the most impact early on, is kind of been my approach generally. But I think the starting place is really to first understand the business objectives and go from there.
I love it. Yeah, because everyone says accounting shouldn't be the tail wagging the dog, right? But at the same time, accounting, finance, taxes, systems are sometimes the long pole in the tent when you're talking about IPOs or liquidity events, and you need records or you need, public company standard to get through public company audits and other things. And so I think it is a bit of a catch 22 that, everyone is focused so much on scaling the business, and I'm not arguing there because you have to have a thriving business in order for us accountants to have jobs in the first place, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, I think if it's not a like scaling, it's at least a closer lag behind the scaling of the business, so that the deferred maintenance and all of the work to build doesn't happen at a time where you are talking about bringing in capital and other things that truly make a difference for the organization.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so as a leader, sometimes what I've seen in practice is leaders sometimes struggle with asking for help. You've talked about bringing in others to help with work-life balance and scaling the organization. how do you make that decision of what to scale internally and when to leverage trusted external advisors?
I mean, I think first is like just reflecting on what resources exist already, and like, do we have the internal expertise and even the bandwidth to do this right and do it well? If the answer is yes, then we'll definitely build it internally or use internal resources, because it generally strengthens the team long term. Like, it expands, gives them new things to work on, expands kind of their knowledge and skills. But then more often, it doesn't already exist, and so bringing in those external advisors or it's great. It helps us move faster, and then we still get to learn from the experts. And so I think it's really important. And also, I personally like value the external partnerships, because it's like repeated experience that they've had that they're able to kind of immediately bring. So I feel like just the amount of knowledge and learning that we have from them kind of just helps the team grow as well.
Yeah, and kind of expanding on that, I mean, throughout your career, you've worked with several service providers. What qualities are you looking in those providers that, really build that long-term relationship?
I mean, first and foremost, like expertise, of course, and just bringing the very different perspectives. And I personally found that like all of these, my trusted advisors are generally like very candid, pragmatic, and they really are invested in like helping me and the team and the business succeed. So yeah, it's kind of like an extension of my team is kind of how I look at it. And it's like we we kind of trust each other, and that's gone a long way.
Yeah, well, you just described, Connor Group from the standpoint of how we operate as an extension of management teams, and I think it was interesting after spending 11 years at the Big Four and then 11 years at Connor Group. The sense of gratitude that I've felt in the last 11 years in working with clients, where they see us not as a consultant, not as an auditor in some cases, they see us as an extension of their team, really helping them solve complex and critical challenges. So I know you've worked with Connor Group plenty in the past.
Yes.
Anything you want to share on, I guess success stories or anything there?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many, but I would say at SurveyMonkey, we were rolling out our SOX 404 program, and Connor Group came in to basically take the lead on that. We had one internal person as the quarterback, but that was like the smoothest SOX 404 implementation that I've ever experienced. I mean, it was incredible. And for me, like, that was just a huge lift where I could just rely on that team to really know what they were doing and execute. And we were able to get to an outcome that to me made way more sense for the company. And yeah, I was thankful to the partnership from Connor Group.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Talking through personal breakthroughs and reflection, what would you say has been your most defining breakthrough moment? Let's start with personally first.
Oh gosh, personally, I think I think asking for help is probably a breakthrough moment for me. Like, realizing that it's okay not having all the answers. Um, I think now, as my children have continued to grow, they're college age at this point, but like, um, empowering them is also a breakthrough moment. Like, seeing how they have turned into these adults is kind of nice to see. I know you
That's
have a ways to
that's
go, but
it's still terrifying to me. I'm not as far as it was a few years ago, and I think I'm ahead of. I feel like I'm like in the middle ground where I've got teenagers to like first graders, and he is in first grade. Okay, yeah, it's hard to keep track. Okay, and then professionally, what would you say your largest breakthrough moment has been to date?
I think when I realized that like leadership is really a lot about listening. So I think that was probably something like I early on wouldn't have thought that that was it, but now realize that it really is a lot about listening. So I think I do a lot of that, or I try to.
Okay. So that was the retrospective look. Now going forward, what are your what breakthrough moments are you seeking going forward?
Gosh, I don't know if there's anything in particular. I think when I think about it, it's just for me is continuing to like ask questions um, and being able to see like the impact, whether it's at a company I'm at or the people that I work with. So yeah, now I think I get more excited to see others thrive and being a part of that.
Yeah, I've said that a lot with my teams, and not to say that like I've accomplished everything that I've wanted to accomplish in my career. I'm clearly there's a long way to go there, but I tell them I was like, this isn't about me anymore. This is about you and how I can use my experiences to help shape your future experiences. And it's amazing how much you learn through watching others grow into their roles, finding new skills that they sometimes didn't know that they had. And I think you made a really astute point about leadership being more about listening and being that kind of servant leader than, be. I laugh because I'm like, I want what I wanted to say was being the like dad in the relationship and trying to solve everything.
Yeah.
But it's nice to allow folks to come to their own conclusions and helping to shape that. I think you and I share similar leadership styles in that I don't micromanage. I don't sit over people and say, hey, when are you going to get this done? What are you doing? What are you working on? Is that the most important thing? I set expectations for the results that I want, and that we're trying to achieve together. And I let them manage their time and their responsibilities to ensure that they achieve those results. Am I
Yeah.
paraphrasing your style as well?
Yeah. No, spot on. So
Going back to Flock, what's next for the company? I realize that. I know we talked about surveillance and other things. Do you mind sharing a bit more about the company's business model as well as what's next for the company?
absolutely. So we're hardware enabled software, and really, at the end of the day, I think it's about making communities safer. So I think our biggest initiative is leveraging like all our suite of products in order to make communities safer. So we've got license plate readers, video cameras, drones, and they all are part of this network and actually do the data that's kind of collected from all these devices and how they integrate and how they help solve crimes faster. So I think it's really like showing these communities and cities how these products all work well together, and um, that's probably like our biggest focus is really to drive the safe cities um, initiative. And you may have had a second question, and I've
Well,
already
just
forgotten.
what's next for the company? I mean, you guys are growing incredibly rapidly. Is this a company that goes public? Is this a company that what do we look for from Flock Safety in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that like the leadership team there is focused on necessarily like going public or not, but I think it's continuing to be like to focus on innovation. We went from having a single product to now having 5 really strong products out there. So I think it's going to be to continue to drive that product market fit, and seeing what other technology can like fit into the suite of products that we have, and it's all focused on the making communities safer.
A question I've asked of all of my guests, for successful executives, there's always trade-offs and sacrifices. If you had the opportunity to do it all over again, would you do the same thing, or would you do some things differently?
I don't think I would change much. I think all of the experiences that I've had, it, whether they were mistakes or valuable lessons, it's kind of shown me what works, what doesn't. It's taught me how to lean on my mentors and my team. And so those are all lessons that have helped me become the leader that I am today. And I think looking back, the only thing I would maybe say is like, I might have taken certain opportunities sooner, but that I think eventually happened when I built the confidence, or I kind of had a bit more time under my belt. But I don't think there's anything all that much I would change. I really enjoy what I do, which is surprising for a lot of people. They don't understand why I love what I do, but I think it's the building. I think the moment I went from Yahoo to SurveyMonkey, and since then it's been all around building and kind of getting my fingerprints on building the foundation. So it's just all the experiences I've had have helped me as I've moved to the next place. So it's hard to have any regrets.
Yeah, well, it doesn't shock me that you love what you do, because that definitely comes through, in all of our conversations. And I think it's truly, truly inspiring, especially when some people view work as possibly a obligation. I think it's a matter of perspective, and you're setting a great example for folks to believe that there is an opportunity to love what you do and have someone pay you well for it. It's okay. um, what final parting message would you have to, let's call it, future chief accounting officers, finance executives, if you were to sum up your body of work to date? I know you're far from finished, but what lessons would you pass on to the next crop of chief accounting officers?
I would just say, yeah, you know, take on whatever the challenges are and surround yourself with like a team that is solid, external advisors that are there to help you. I've never done it alone. It's always been like a group of people working to build something great. And so I think, yeah, don't feel like you have to have all the answers right away. There's so many things that I did not know and had zero experience with that I've gotten to do and learn from. So yeah, if the opportunity comes along, don't be afraid to jump in and use your network. And it's amazing how I have been able to lean on my network, and that's probably my most favorite part of what I do is bouncing things off of the people in my network.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more on all of that. I always say when we do something wrong, I say I, and when we win or do something well, it's a we. So yeah, it's I definitely appreciate and commend the team based approach for sure. Dharti, I think we're coming up on the end of our time, and I just wanted to thank you. I know you've got a lot going on at Flock, and I appreciate you taking the time to spend it with us and for being on the podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Robbie. And thanks
Okay.
to Connor Group for their continued partnership. It's one that I see lasting a very long time.
Thank you.